Right.
And so he was just fast asleep, and the disciples, of course, were in turmoil, and so they rushed to him and said, "Don't you care? We're perishing." And verse 39, and he got up and rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Hush, be still." And the winds died down, and it became perfectly calm. And Jesus knew his life was in God's hands. And there's an expression, "It's not my time yet," right? It wasn't his time yet for death, and so he was just went ahead and in God's name calmed the sea and the storms, and I think we need to get to a point where it's like, I don't know if it's my time yet or not, but if it's not, God will take care of it.
Right.
And we don't need to be that fearful. And that's exactly, I think, what Jesus told his disciples next. He said, verse 40, and he said to them, "Why are you afraid? How is it that you have no faith?"
Wow.
You of little faith, or no faith. It's like, in faith, when you think of the word faith, of course, we interpret it in different ways. In English, we'll often say faith, belief, or my favorite is trust. And how is it you have no trust? Don't you know we're about doing God's business? And so don't have that kind of fear, because our lives are literally in God's hands, and let's have that trust.
Amen. I had a problem with when Christ said, he got up and he rebuked the winds, and then he said, "Where's your faith?" Now, I had to just dive into, okay, what was happening on the lake? Now, there's mountains around the Sea of Galilee. So just to paint a picture, some researchers, they looked at how the nature of Sea of Galilee. And the Sea of Galilee can at times, the winds can get so high, they can be up to 75 miles an hour. Now, a EF1 hurricane's level 1 is 74 miles an hour, first of all. So they say when the heat rises, it gets really hot, it pulls up. When this pulls up, it causes the water to come up, and then the cold air brings it down. So you get that motion of the heat rising, cool air bringing it down. So you get the waves going. On the mountains on either side, the winds will rush down, and they'll get caught on the other side of the mountains, and they'll come down. So you get the water pulling up like this, then you get the wind pushing the water side to side, and then nature does a funny little thing. It'll get a twisting motion. So you're having this sea like you put in your mix master and turned it on puree. And these disciples are absolutely petrified. They are seasoned fishermen. They know the waves, and they are freaking out. And Desire of Ages points out, they had called out to Christ more than once. They had called out to him, and no one was answering. And I don't know if I have another slide on here. And they forgot he was there. They forgot Christ was there. They were toiling so hard, they forgot Christ was there. And I was remembering, have you ever forgotten your keys? Or your glasses? Like you're walking around, where's my glasses? Where's my glasses? And then after 10 minutes, you realize they're on your head. Or your keys, you're looking for your keys, and they're somewhere just, whatever. And you're so focused on what you're trying to do, you forget where the important thing is. And the disciples, they were so focused on saving their own lives, they forgot the life giver. They forgot the guy who told them to go across the sea. And like Richard said, he said, it's not my time. And that's what Christ said many times. He says, my time is not at hand. It's not my time yet. So if God told you, I need you to do something, won't he give you whatever you need to get through there? He didn't say the ride's going to be smooth. So anyways, Ellen White points out, so they're toiling and trying to get through in Mark chapter 4, verse 38. It's around there. And a lightning strikes, and they look and they see the Savior sleeping on the pilot's pillow. They see him sleeping right there. And they cry out, Master, carest thou not that we perish? Was Christ worried? He was in peaceful sleep. In Isaiah 32:17, it says, the work of righteousness will be peace, and the effect thereof will be quietness and assurance forever. And if we have that righteousness, we know what God wants of us. If it's not your time, if you're in a terrible ship or a plane that's jumping up and down, it's not my time. Somehow we're going to get through this. And anyways, Christ stands up. Now know that boat's going like this. He didn't ask, hey, Peter, can you hold me up? Help me up here. No, Christ stands up. And that wind's going just contrary. It's going perpendicular. The rains it's going everywhere, and Christ stands up. He's not trying to hold himself. He stands up and he rebukes the wind. And he says, where is your faith? And they should have done what, like you said, hey, why are we worried? Christ told us to go across here. Christ told us to row across this. Somehow we're going to make it. Let's not freak out. But they forgot the mission. What are you going to say?
Kind of an interesting point there about them being so concerned about what they were going through at that time, and so they have these troubles, and their first question is, "Do you not care?" Yeah. I mean, Jesus said, "Life is more than the body. What we eat, what clothing we put on there." It's like, I think there are two things to realize. One is the Lord is my shepherd, right? Yeah. My welfare is in His hands, right? And if I understand that, regardless of what happens to me right now in this life, my welfare. I mean, our Father who is in heaven. It's like if I can't trust that God is in fact the Father and has my welfare in mind, along with everyone else's, right? Then I failed the test of where's your faith? Yeah. Right? And I guess the other thing that we need to remember is it's not about me, or it's not just about me. Yeah. God has a big deal. I mean, I think John the Baptist could have asked the same question. Do you not care? Right. It's like, no, God cares. And John the Baptist, what he went through became a huge benefit to so many others. His life will have turned out to have been such a great blessing, and it will be to his benefit, ultimately, as long as everyone else benefits. Right. So I think, we need to realize when we go through troubles, let's not ask first thing, do you not care? Right. What am I going through? Do you not care? God does care. Right. And when the disciples cried out, Master, Master, they cried out. The Greek means epistante, which means commander, somebody who can do something somebody who had power, and they were crying out, for help, and Christ was right there, and when you're going through something tough right now, I don't know what it is, family stuff, financial stuff, health stuff, knowing that the bigger plan, what is God's plan for me? Going back and what has God told me about my life? What am I supposed to do? And even if you haven't figured it out and you're still studying, Lord, please tell me what it is I'm supposed to do. And that will give you peace in that storm, and it's a work in process, but so many good things in this. I wish we could spend longer on it, but let's if anybody has any comments or anything, we have a mic up there, because there's so much to talk about in these miracles. But let's go to Monday's lesson.
can you hear a whisper above a shout? One of the times of year I do not like going to the stores, especially the malls or outlets, is during Christmas. Because everybody's supposed to be of good, happy Yuletide and whatever, but it is chaos. And if you're with family or whatever and you're trying to get a word across to somebody, it's hard. It's just pandemonium. At least when I'm going in, it's terrible. So we're going to talk about the demoniac of Gadara. And now just a little commercial break. Mark and Luke only mention one demoniac. Matthew talks about 2 demoniacs. So I don't want you guys to lose your faith in the word or anything. It's just Mark was focused on one. One stood out to him. He was like, wow, this guy was crazy. I'm going to write about him. And Luke, same thing. Just in case people get all bent up about a shape and saying, hey, the Bible's not congruent here. But it is. Just they were focusing on the one they wanted to talk about. But this guy, he was, Ellen White talks about, they had just got out of this scenario, the storm. It was calm, and they got to the other side of the lake. And the disciples got out of the boat, and she says, a horror met them more furious than that storm. And it was these demons and these men that came out, and Christ was with them. They walked out there. When they saw them, the disciples took off running. They ran back to the ship. And Christ was standing there alone with these demoniacs. And, the disciples looked back and realized Christ was not with them. Christ does not run from Satan. Praise the Lord. Christ stood there. And Christ asked the demoniacs, he said, what is your name? And he said, my name is Legion. And in the Roman system, legion means 3 to 5,000 soldiers. So I'm taking it if, he's talking to one of them, and it was the leader. Ellen White points out in Great Controversy, it was the leader of these demons that spoke out and said, my name is Legion. There's like 3 or 5,000 of us. And possibly it was a legion per demoniac. So it was probably 10,000 demons just sitting in there, 6 to 10,000. Doesn't matter. One's too many for me. And Christ, he rebuked the demon to come out. Praise the Lord. And the guy sitting in his right mind. Where did those demons want to go?
Into the swine.
Into the swine. They were like, permit us to go into the swine. Now this is where it gets interesting. There's so many things why he had them go to the swine. Are pigs clean to Jews? No, they are unclean. And the keepers of these pigs, they were so focused on worldly gain, and that's one of the reasons why you read in Great Controversy, page 515. This is where I'm getting this. There's 3 reasons why that Christ had the demons go to the swine. First of all, those Jews were too focused on worldly gain. Second of all, he restrained those demons just going to the swine, because she says if he had not, the swine would have taken the keepers and the owners and plunged them to their death. That's how demons work. They want to destroy everything around them. But Christ, in his mercy, did not allow those keepers and owners to be destroyed. And thirdly, Christ allowed those demons to go into the swine and plunge to their death so the disciples could see what the devil's end goal is for man and beast. He wants to destroy you. He wants to deface the image of man. He wants to kill you completely. And then the last nugget, why did Jesus tell that demoniac, the demoniac was like, hey, let me follow you and whatever. Christ was like, no, stay here. Tell the people what miracles have been done to you this day. And even though the demoniac wasn't able to become the 13th disciple, he, by his testimony, when Christ came back to Decapolis, thousands came out to hear the story of Jesus and to hear his fame of what he had done. And that's the thing. You might not be able to talk about the 28 fundamental beliefs. You might not be able to quote prophecy or anything, but you can tell what Christ has done in your life. And that is your most powerful testimony, is what Jesus has done in your life.
I want to look at that piece where the demoniac wanted to go with Jesus.
Yeah.
Of course, he'd just been rescued.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a person that did such a wonderful thing, right?
Right.
And it says he entreated him. It's like, let me go with you. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? And I guess in a way, this is one of the disappointments in life. Mm-hmm. Jesus said no.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You can't come with me. And here's what he said, verse 19. And he did not let him.
Yeah.
How disappointing is that?
Yeah.
Something you want the most to do.
Anticlimactic. Like, yeah.
No, you can't do that. But he said, go. But he gave him something to do, right? I mean, it's like, no. Instead of this, do this.
Yes.
Go to your home, to your people, and report to them the great things the Lord has done for you and how he had mercy on you. Now, so here's a question. First of all, he says, no, you have a place to go. You have a mission to go to. Go to your people, right? And I have to ask, well, what training do you have? I mean, it's like, okay, he was just a minute ago he was a demoniac. What training? Did he go to seminary? I mean, did he take the bunch of Bible studies on 27 fundamental beliefs? I mean, what right does this guy have to go?
No credentials.
To go to people, and he says, you don't need training. He says, go and report to them what God has done for you. Right. And it's like, well, who else can say what God has done for them than they themselves, right? I mean, who else can report what God has done for me except me?
Yes.
And so the training that we have to become witnesses is simply what we've been through. And God says, report on that and how God has dealt with you. Yeah. And if you do that, what's the result? Right. And the verse 20, and he went away and began to proclaim to Decapolis what great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed. Yeah. It's like, we don't need theology degrees. All we need is to know, who am I? What has God done for me? Yeah. And if we just proclaim that to those around us, it's like amazing things can happen as a result.
And the people, so all the people of that region, when Christ cast out that demon, they all came out to see what had happened. They were watching, actually. Ellen White points out, they were watching what happened. They saw the demons get cast into the swine, and the keepers, and they saw this whole thing, and then they went and told the people in the villages, and they came out, and what was their response at that time? They told Christ to leave. Were the demoniacs causing problems in that area, yes or no? They were. They tried to chain them. They broke out of the chains. They would jump upon any traveler that passed by, and they would just absolutely they were a terror. And the people that were in that villages or whatever, they should have been like, thank you. These people have been just a menace. But no, they were so focused on the swine, their livelihood, that Christ was like, no, you can't be doing this. And sometimes God will take things away from you. Maybe that job that's so easy for you to just kind of cook the books on, or maybe that relationship that's just so easy to go the wrong way. Sometimes God will take that away, and that's a blessing to you. But you're so focused, Lord, you took away my boyfriend, or Lord, you took away that job I like so much. And you're not asking the real question, God, what is the bigger picture? What is the bigger picture for my life? Why? There must be a reason why you're letting this happen. I'm just going to follow you. So many lessons in this. If anybody has any comments, feel free to jump in. Let's go to Tuesday's lesson.
Okay. So in Tuesday, now this is where, for me, it really shows how Jesus dealt with people and real lessons for me to learn. And I want to start with a quote from Parker Palmer. He writes in Let Your Life Speak, listening to the voice of vocation. He says, I had embraced a form of Christian faith devoted less to the experience of God than to abstractions about God. And this is something that I think we Adventists need to be cognizant of. I mean, we have our 27 fundamental beliefs. We have, it's like state of the dead and the second coming and all these different doctrines, beliefs, and Parker Palmer points out that his early Christian experience, it's like he had all these concepts about God, not an experience about God. And one of the things that I've noticed before, I remember knowing someone when I lived in the Houston area. This person was of the Pentecostal type denomination, right? And one of the things that really impressed me was how this person brought Jesus into everything. I mean, it's like, boy, Jesus was doing this and that, and we have the term holy roller, right? I mean, it's like, oh, great, but it's like they were really, really engaged in the experience of having that relationship with God, and they brought it everywhere. And it's like, I just wondered sometimes as Adventists, are we a little bit too abstract in our beliefs? And so this is what Parker Palmer says. He says, I embraced a form of Christianity devoted less to the experience of God rather than to abstractions about God. A fact that that now baffles, should be baffling, I think, but not waffles me. How did so many disembodied concepts emerge from a tradition whose central commitment is to the Word become flesh? And I think this is what we can really learn as we examine these stories of Jesus is, I mean, Jesus was God, the Word become flesh. And how did he treat experiences? And so these couple of experiences for me really teach me how to look at life. So there are two experiences here. One of them, Matthew 5:22-24. One of the synagogue officials named Jairus came up and seeing him fell at his feet and implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Please come." So Jesus is walking, going somewhere. Someone just out of the blue comes and falls at his feet, says, "Please come." Now, I think maybe most of our natural response would be, well, let's make an appointment, or let's see about doing that. Let's see if we can do that a little bit later. I mean, it's like, I'm headed over here. It's like, okay, well, maybe when I'm done, it's like we can go over. Text me or whatever. Jesus, and you see this over and over again. Jesus dealt with what was with him at that moment in time. And so at this moment in time, here is somebody asking Jesus if he would do something. And so what does Jesus do? And he went off. I mean, just right away. It's like, okay. And so learning to kind of focus on what's going on around me right now.
Right.
what can I deal with right now? What is right now happening, issue to deal with? I mean, that for me is something that Jesus over and over again does.
Right.
And then so now he's on the way to Jairus' home. And what happens next?
Right.
He's on the way and he feels that someone touched him. Right? And it was this woman. So on the way, this woman who had a horrible disease for so many years, verse 28, for she thought, if I just touch his garments, I will get well. Immediately, the flow of blood, of her blood was dried up.
Right.
And then what happens again? Jesus focuses on what's happening right now. And immediately, Jesus, perceiving in himself that the power proceeding from him had gone forth, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched me? Jesus focuses on people. It's like one of the lessons that I'm really trying to learn is that whoever I'm with, it's my responsibility to create as hospitable atmosphere with that person at that time. It's why I don't usually answer my phone if someone calls, because I don't want to say, if you and I are talking, I don't want to say, oh, wait a minute, Sean, this might be somebody important.
Oh, come on.
What is that saying about the person I'm with? It's like the conversation we're having is what's important, right? If someone is calling, it's like, okay, I can get the message, but let's focus on who we are. Let's make sure that whoever I'm with, knows that they're the important, right now. This is what's important, and so that's what Jesus did, and he made that person know that they were important, and so Jesus with Jairus, after he found out, someone came and said, well, your daughter's dead, no trouble, and he said to her, but no, okay, we're working first with the woman with the flow of blood. So he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well, go in peace and be healed of your affliction. And one of the things you see both here and also with Jairus is Jesus builds up and affirms their trust, their faith. It's like, hey, trust God. It's well. Right. Your trust, your faith has made you well. And then with Jairus, when Jairus was told that, no bother anymore, she's dead.
Right.
But Jesus, overhearing what had been spoken, said to the synagogue official, do not be afraid any longer. Only believe. Only have trust. And so he dealt with the people, and of course we know that he went and healed.
I put on a roller coaster with Jesus, like Christ, he takes directions that I'm not, so I'm not planned for. I'm like, well, no, I figured you're going to probably go in this direction, and Christ takes a U-turn. And, I don't know, my problem with this story of Jairus is that, Christ's like, yeah, I'll come to your house. Jairus, let's go. And he's going. I mean, the guy had, my daughter's, dying. She's dying. This is really serious, And Christ stopped for the woman who had an issue with blood. I would be so livid. I'm like, Christ, my daughter's dying. How do you have the time to stop for somebody else? I'm dying. She's still alive. What's the deal? And, that's because, I'm working on selfishness and everything else. But, how Christ took the time and he knew, Christ didn't forget the daughter was dying, but he took the time and said, hey, there is, there's a lesson here that needs to be gotten out, to be received. And, the spirit of prophecy points out that Christ, in the morning, when he got up to pray, he made no plans for his day. It was whatever the Father told him. He didn't say, well, God, I got to go here, and this is where I'm going, so you work around that. No, Jesus is like, hey, whatever's your will. And sometimes it might feel like a roller coaster. Sometimes, You're like, yes, you're at work and you're doing your thing, and God plants something in your ear. I want you to go talk to that person that just chewed you out last week. I want you to tell them that to come to church. That would be a U-turn for me, I need more time to get over that person chewing me out. It's like how Christ will just take you at a different point, and you're like, Lord, you're not working on my schedule. I have a time to meet here. And how Jesus took that time and he worked with that woman with the issue of blood. There's so many stories that come out of that. How, the touch of faith. Everybody was around him, and I'm sure some of them had cold, some of them had all this, but they didn't get healed. It was that woman at that point who got healed, who touched Christ with a different touch, a touch of faith that Christ said, stop. Something happened here that needs to be brought out. And I think that's amazing. Yes.
I just want to say that.
We have a comment.
First name and then.
It's Donnie,
Mhm.
and I just want to say that I don't think this is on. That's my fault too. No, what I was going to say is that her issue of blood made her unclean.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone else may have been there sick,
Mm-hmm.
but she had been told, I think it was 12 years.
Yes, 12 years.
That she had to be set apart from the congregation.
Yeah.
She had to be set apart
Yeah.
from everybody because she was unclean.
Right.
And their view of this kind of thing was that if you were unclean,
Yeah.
it wasn't a physiological thing, but you
Right.
were cursed.
Yeah.
So in her mind, I just put myself in her shoes, and
Mhm.
I'm thinking, she thinks, you're angry with me.
Mm-hmm.
I've done something that is that you're cursing me for.
Mm-hmm.
You have separated me from my friends, my family, my synagogue, everything. So when she reaches out and touch in faith, she's not just asking about, will you heal me physically?
Mm-hmm.
She's worried that something's wrong with her spiritually.
Mhm.
She wants to be healed spiritually. And I think that's
Yeah.
the moment of faith.
Mhm.
Because like you said, I'm sure there were people there it's like, my hip always hurts. We should do something about
Right,
it.
right.
That's a different
Right.
feeling than I am cut off
Mhm.
from the brethren
Mm-hmm.
and from God.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think it's really powerful to say, why her, why not somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not a magic clip,
Right.
right? I'm sure other people were pressing
Mhm.
against
They
him.
were.
That's why I said there's so many people, and you ask who touched you,
Right.
right? I'm sure somebody else touched him,
Mhm.
but she was crying out, and I think that tells us how merciful God is.
Mhm.
And it also struck me that obviously God didn't tell him that this was going to happen today.
Yeah.
So if he didn't tell his son this is going to happen today, then maybe we're going to have, Jesus didn't get that information, that memo first, because he wasn't expecting her, was he? Who was this,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So, come forward. So I don't think
Yeah.
God told him in advance everything
Yeah.
that was going
Right.
to come his way. Just to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. And know that where did they at that time go confess their sins? They had to bring a lamb, a sheep, a dove, whatever they could afford that was in the Levitical code. They had to bring it to the sanctuary. So her prayers aren't quote unquote getting answered, or sins confessed, whatever. Just being a part, it was a huge deal, like Donnie was talking about. It's a huge deal. And that's why we're talking about it centuries later. And that's because Christ did whatever the Father told him to do. And he stopped and had the time to make time for that woman. And I think that's amazing. Any other points for, is that Tuesdays? All right. Well, let's jump into Wednesday's lesson. Rejection and reception. Well, let's see who's starting this one out. Okay, I am. Rejection and reception. Who likes to be rejected? Raise your hand. Who likes to be put out? Oh my goodness. It's like it's one of the things I think that fly in the face of atheism is, like we have these feelings of love and rejection and sympathy and all these things. Where do they come from and why are they in us? And so let's talk about Christ. He's heading back home to his home country of Galilee. And when Christ got home, he got to Nazareth. Even Nathaniel, I think it was Nathaniel or Philip, one of them said, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" That was Nathaniel. And in John chapter 1. And, Nazareth was a terrible town, terrible, known for its rascality. And you read, Christ came and he came to the synagogue and he came forward to preach. And what happened when he got up there? This is the same time that Luke in chapter 4, starting in verse 16, Christ, as his custom was, went to the synagogue, and he got up and he said, "The time is at hand, for the deliverance of the prisoners out of the prison house. His time had come." And what did they say? And if you read in Desire of Ages, when he said that, they were just filled with awe, and just things were just like, wow, this is wonderful. And then the devil came in, and he was like, "Hey, wait a second, we know this guy. He's a carpenter. We know his parents. He doesn't come from any kind of great, family or anything." And that, the mindset of the Jews at that time were to overthrow the Romans. And when Christ said, that speech, he left out the part to and to overthrow our enemies and everything that he was quoting the prophet Isaiah in Isaiah 42. And he left that out because he knew what was in man at that time, and they wanted to hear this. We're going to take down Rome and everything. And they, how did it end? They wanted to throw him out. They wanted to kill him. And Christ disappeared. And you read that text in Mark chapter 6, verse 4. "A prophet is without honor in his own country." And that's a terrible feeling. Christ felt rejection. He wasn't like, if they really knew I'm the divine Savior, I control the cosmos, these peons, whatever. No, he hurt. He bled. He felt the emotions of being pushed away. And that had to have been a very sad time. But he kept on going. And sometimes it's hard, once you're rejected, to keep on going. It's very easy to just stay there and to stay and just let that cloud get bigger and bigger and bigger and just point.
This spoke to me on my walk. It's Donnie again. It spoke to me on my walk. I was walking, and we have had some really wonderful people come to church, be active in church, and then not be at church anymore. And not even on the rolls. They're not even Adventist anymore. Worked hard, served, but, and they're not here. Short period of time, 2-3 years, and then poof, they're gone. We don't see them anymore. That's happened in this church. So I don't know all their ins and outs of their story, but what I say is, we have to look inward as a community as to why that happened. But then, nobody's greater than somebody else. This was an effective strategy that Satan used.
Yeah.
So I really just kind of had looked at it and said, well, am I vulnerable?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Everybody's vulnerable because nobody likes rejection.
Right.
Nobody likes conflict.
Right.
We don't all get along exactly the same. We don't all see things exactly the same. We're all in different spiritual walks. So when those things happen, and I was walking and it just been on my heart a lot. I said, it happened to Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not Jesus, so I'm not still going there. But it can happen to him. It can happen to you.
Yeah.
But he didn't abandon the Father's mission.
Right. Praise
he didn't
the Lord.
turn. He was giving his life.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up his throne. He gave up his royalty. He gave up his authority to walk as just a regular person, right?
Yeah.
And serve, to wash the feet, to heal the demoniac, to bring a new. And he was rejected.
Yeah.
He was ill-treated by members in the church that he was serving.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is that strengthening part that says we may encounter this.
Yeah.
We may encounter disagreements. We may encounter those things. But we don't pack up our bags and go. We don't. I think Miss White said that Judas reached a point where he turned his back on the Lord, and he was still able to be saved.
Yeah.
But he separated
Right.
himself from the brethren, and after he had done that, there was nothing else he could do. He separated
Right.
himself from the disciples, from
Right.
God, and because he pulled out of
Yeah.
that group that was going, whatever he was feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Peter had the same feeling. Peter rejected Christ 3 times. So he wasn't feeling the thing with the Lord, okay? But Peter still stayed with the brethren.
Right.
And he kept his faith.
Mm-hmm.
Because where did they find Peter? Denied the Lord 3 times, but where did Jesus find Peter?
Mm-hmm.
Fishing with the other disciples, with the brethren. I don't think Peter had it all figured out yet. So I think there's value in us learning to just stick it out with the brethren, and with whatever our issues are, something's happened in my family. I've seen people, not in this church, but I've met other people like, I'm not going to be
Right.
a Christian anymore because I prayed and my child died a horrible death of
Yeah.
cancer. There was this terrible car accident. I lost everything. Where is God in all of this trouble? I've seen people who have just tragedy after tragedy and say that's why they're turning away. We just have to look at Jesus, and like I said, he didn't get any. He got the same serving of dinner that we all get. So
Yeah.
sometimes we just have to eat our peas and go on.
Amen. Richard.
So verse 2 says that when Jesus went to his own home, right, town, they were astonished, and they said, "What is this wisdom
Mm-hmm.
given to him?"
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, "Oh, but wait a minute, we know who this guy is," and it says, "Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon?"
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, that astonishment
Mm-hmm.
is like, "Wait a minute, we know who you are.
Yeah.
Are you,
Yeah.
lowly carpenter, trying to teach me?
Right.
We're the important people here.
Right.
You're not the important person. Are you trying to teach me?" And it says that they took offense
Yeah.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just, one of the things to remember and to be cautious of, God might want to give us a lesson from a source that we don't normally would respect.
Right.
It's like, we think we're important.
Right. Right.
Is this person going to try to teach me?
Right.
And it's like, well, God has his own ways
Yeah.
of doing things.
Yeah.
And so they took offense that the person who is a carpenter
Mm-hmm.
in the carpenter's family
Right.
was now teaching what was astonishing wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they took offense. And then Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and among his own relatives and in his own household."
Mm-hmm.
We might get words of wisdom, and this is something we should be open to, from our own spouses.
Right.
It's like, "What? You're trying to teach me something?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe God works through other people.
Right.
Sometimes it might even be through our own spouses.
Yeah.
And he wondered it says at their unbelief. Again, this is from the same root word of trust, at their untrust. It's like, well, God is trying to do something. Let's be open to the avenues that he might be able to use, even with me.
Yeah. No, and the law of nature abhors a vacuum. Just like I was telling you, when heat rises, cold wants to come in. Like if you've had a rain that comes and it cools down everything, then after that you feel that heat come, that humidity. Nature does not like that. And so wherever Christ and Satan are jostling for position. And if you push Christ away, Satan will immediately take that step. He will occupy that position, And so that's what's going. They're struggling for supremacy in our minds, and it's who we hold on to. Let's wrap up Thursday's lesson as much as we can. I'll let you go, Richard.
So that Jesus now just returns from the encounter with the demoniac, and of course, remember, just hours before, he was absolutely just dead to the world. I mean, he was so tired from all the work that he'd done, and now back after journey again, back to the other side of the shore, and it says when Jesus went ashore, he saw a large crowd, and he felt compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. And one of the things I think for me to realize is, I'm making my way through this planet, of course, and I think like most people, it's like it's hit or miss.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't know what's coming down the pike. I don't have a really big picture of things, and here's God in the flesh, and when he sees people, he says he has compassion, because they're like sheep without a shepherd, and for me it's like, okay, what does God want to teach me that maybe I should be open to? God is so willing. I mean, it's like even when God in the flesh was dead tired, and he saw people who had a need, his first instinct is, let me see how I can help those people. And so then it says, when it was already quite late, so now you've been teaching all day, his disciples came to him and said, send them away so they may go and buy themselves something to eat. And I guess that's a nice, it's like, okay, here's the plan, let's go, let them go and get their food. But Jesus told his disciples, but he answered them, you give them something to eat.
Wow.
And so it's like, not only am I a sheep, once I accept that I'm part of God's flock, God then says, now it's time for you to give to other people. And of course they were baffled. It's like, well, what do we do? I mean, let's get a little whatever money we can get from the bag that Judas is keeping for us, go to town and buy some food. And Jesus then gives them. First, he opens up the challenge. Then he gives them a plan. So let's like, okay. Once we accept that we're part of God's army, he's going to say, okay, now you do something too.
Right.
And he doesn't just abandon us; he'll be there with us as well.
Right. No. The story of Mark chapter 6. It goes into the story of the feeding of the 5,000. And, Christ, he has so many different ways of looking at things. Ellen White points out, God has 1,000 ways of answering your prayers that you do not know of. And, we're so stuck on, oh man, this is the only way God can do this, in our little finite peon mind, we can only see like just a couple things. And Christ has so many ways of doing things. And 5,000, there was actually, it said 5,000 men. But if you read in Desire of Ages, it was more like, it was closer to around 25,000 people. And, okay, we got 3 minutes. So the biggest point of this story was that Christ did not let them crown him king at that time. They wanted to crown him king, and she says Judas was the foremost and the one saying, hey, this is our chance, let's crown him king. Why did not Christ just take that? The whole crowds were ready. He could feed everybody. They were like, hey, he can feed everyone here. We can have military, he can feed the military, he can heal us, we'll be full. And why didn't he allow that to happen? And she points out violence would have broken out because the Pharisees were already mad that Christ was taking away the people from him. So that would have actually hindered the work. And there's so many points to bring out there, but you might have in your mind, hey, Lord, this is what I want. This is the way we should go. Lord, this is the way we should do this, whatever it is. This is how my job should work. And Christ's like, no. Let's do it a different way. Are you ready for Christ to tell you no? Are you ready for him to say, hey, no, that's not the best plan. Let's do it another way. And so it's just being humble and open. He has shown the old man what to do. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And I need it. I need humility and just being humble and like, Lord, okay, whatever your way is best. Jeremiah 10:23, it is not a man to know his steps. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? So, be willing to realize, hey, I don't know everything, God. What do you want from me? This lesson had so much stuff in it. I hate we have to wrap it up. But let's close with prayer and just focus on letting God lead us, even though we might think we know the way ourselves. Richard, would you close in prayer?
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you so much that you did the sacrifice to send your Son to become flesh and be one of us. And now we are adopted into your family. And as such, Lord, help us to trust you with the plans that you have for our lives. Help us, Lord, to do some good while we're here cooperating with you, so that when we gather around the tree, there will be many of us,
Amen.
Lord, that are there because you blessed others through us. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next Sabbath. Time. Thank you, Richard.